Herzlich willkommen zu einer neuen Ausgabe SE Talk, und wie ich vorher schon in einem Interview gesagt habe, ich bin gerade bei der Discovery Group und die hat einige Firmen hier am Start, unter anderem Fireweed Zinc. Und mit Fireweed Zinc haben wir ja schon mehrere Interviews gemacht. Das letzte Video haben wir im März gemacht. Jetzt falle ich schon ins Englische. Sorry, I'm falling from German into English. The last interview we do in March, I think.
Yes, that's correct. Yep.
But my first question is not about your company and what you're doing. The first question is about the market. For me, it's frustrating when you look, especially at zinc or all the other precious metal. You see the price coming down, but also the inventory is coming down. It makes absolutely no sense for me that price coming down, inventory is coming down. That's not the correlation that should be normally. Normally it's the opposite. When the inventory is going down, the price going up, and vice versa. So do you have any idea why this is the reason?
There can be first is that I think you understand that the notion that the market's going to be rational is perhaps it's a lovely thing you learn in economics class, but it's not something that actually manifests. Trade wars and global economic slowdown have weighed heavily on base metals. So despite the fact that there appears to be a systemic shortage in zinc and copper, et cetera, and these inventories are coming down, often sharply, the prices do not react. There's also sometimes is a bit of a case with zinc right now that the Chinese smelters have shut a lot of capacity, so that creates a shortage of physical metal, even if there might not be as large a shortage of concentrate. So there is concentrate supply from mines, and then there's a physical metal supply from smelters. Usually when concentrate comes down, physical metal comes down, and vice versa, but sometimes you got a bit of it flipped right now where physical metal supply is low because there's low concentrate availability, but that's also what's driven treatment charges in the zinc space way up. I think if you're willing to look at it from a rational medium to long term perspective, because in the short term you can't possibly expect the market to remain rational. In the long term there will generally be some long term reversion to mean, and that mean should average out over time to be something sensible. So, we develop our project with a long-term mindset. So zinc is currently at $1.06 per pound, or whatever that is per ton. 2,200, 2,300. But you have to take that in stride and say, well, look, that's not the long-term reality, and I have to keep pushing this project ahead. So that's what we keep doing, and in the meantime, you try to filter out the noise and expect that the China-U.S. trade wars will end eventually, hopefully. It's not really good for anyone.
And if Trump wants to be re-elected, he must do something.
Yeah, you could make a pretty good case for the fact that he might be dragging his feet to do a late cycle announcement to try to get some tailwinds into the election.
Yeah, but on the other hand, he needs time also to see the positive results out of this trade and of the trade war, so that the economy can recover.
Well, he's convinced people that a market is the economy, so all he has to do is move to negative interest rates or something like that. The S&P goes up. Everyone thinks the economy is fine, and it's so to say in one breath we have an incredibly robust economy, and then the other breath we need to cut rates dramatically. So there's a disconnect there, right? But look, voters don't always make that distinction. Yeah. So who knows?
Yeah. Coming to the project. So what are you doing since March, since our last interview?
Yeah, so before we talked in March, we had welcomed Tech as a major investor. So they were the lead order in our financing in January, and we raised $5 million. So what we did over summer was spend about $3.5 million of that $5 on additional drilling and exploration over the property. And we didn't just do some drilling as well. We also did a bit of engineering work on one of our new zones to get a sense of what the potential was there. So we have 3 of our holes still pending. We don't have results on those, but we have got results for, we showed very good grades at shallow depths in the Tom North zone, which is it's not a new zone. We knew it was there, but there was no resource on it. We wanted to build up the open pit mine life, so we drilled these shallow holes into Tom North and showed good, healthy grades, not the stellar grades that we get in some part of our project, but 6 to 8% zinc equivalent, which is for open pit is very healthy, very much above the global average.
Do you have any byproducts?
Yeah, so it's primarily a zinc, lead, and silver project, right? So primarily zinc, and then less lead, and then even less silver.
And the 6 to 8% is zinc equivalent, or
and that's dominantly zinc. Okay. About 60 to 70% of it would be zinc. So Tom North, looks like with 7 holes in that produced pretty good results. I think we could expect that there's a reasonable resource there for an open pit, extension of the open pit mine life. We did a little bit of drilling at the Tom East zone. We had hoped to hit, last year, if you remember, we hit a high-grade extension there. We hit a step-out that was 16 meters of 21% zinc, 13.5% lead, and 240 grams silver. This incredible step-out. So we tried to hit it again this year. Unfortunately, the drill hole deflected down the zone, so we missed the target. If you look at the results, it looks incredible, because if this was the zone, it went all the way down it. So it's this incredibly long, high-grade intersection, but
the true width
is a lot less, right? And look, it's not our style to try to pretend it was anything other than what it was. So we made it abundantly clear, and we had a nice cross-section in there. So that was a bit of a disappointment. It was good grade and actually gave us good data on Tom East, but it didn't, move the needle on the resource. But what's been most interesting this year is late last year we'd acquired a property neighboring to us, the NID property, and within the NID property there was a zone called Boundary Zone. Now Boundary Zone, historically it had drilling done on it by Caminco, now Teck, and they had these very long low-grade intersections, sort of like 250 to 300 meters of 2 to 3% zinc. So these massive, staggeringly large intersections, just low grade. So the question was, okay, so obviously a massive metal endowment there. The Boundary Zone, the core of it is 400 meters wide by 300 meters, but the actual mineralization can be traced 2.5 kilometers. So there is a staggering metal endowment there. But at that grade, how do you make money with it? And that's ultimately what this is about. It's not about, look how much metal I have. It's look how much money I can make. So what we had done this year, we had taken samples from historic Boundary Zone drill holes, and we'd sent it away to labs to do ore sorting testing. I don't know if you're familiar with the ore sorting technology.
No,
so
not really.
You've got you break the rock into cobble sizes, and these cobbles go along a conveyor into conduits, and they're scanned. And in this case, it flicks them, right? So the material at Boundary Zone is very different than Tom and Jason, which are the other 2 main deposits we deal with. Tom and Jason are this finely laminated, very fine-grained, classic SEDEX style deposits. Because they're homogeneous enough, you can't really separate one block from the other, right? But Boundary Zone is this sphalerite, pyrite kind of veins and stockworks and stuff like that, where sometimes you have nothing, sometimes you have high grade, sometimes you got little bits, and it's like on a cobble by cobble basis, it's actually very easy to split it up, separate it.
When you do this test, how fine you grind this?
So you actually want them about that big.
That big?
Yeah, because you want them big enough that you can hit them with the paddle or the blast the air to sort them, right? Once it's fine grained, it's just dust,
for sure.
Right?
If it's too fine, you blow it in the air.
And the whole point is to save. Well, part of the whole point is to save money on grinding it. Like if something,
grinding is expensive.
If something doesn't have zinc in it, you want to get rid of it, right? So what we saw from a bench scale test on Boundary Zone is about you reject 70% of the cobbles, but you only lose 15% of the zinc in doing so. So you get about a 2 to 2.5 times grade uplift in the material. So
does mean you're coming up then to 6-8% also?
Yeah, and it depends on what your assumptions are around the fines which you push through to the mill anyways. But it represents substantial grade uplift. Now, so now boundary zone gets really intriguing because it looks like it definitely be open pittable. It'll definitely be low strip. So if it's cost effective to mine it, and I can upgrade it 1 to 2 to 3 times, the grade, now I can make money when I'm processing it. And because it's such a massive metal endowment there, this could be a real game changer for the project. So we've been quite excited about that. Now, we drilled 2 holes in boundary zone this year where the results are pending. We hope the first hole comes in the next 2 weeks. But we're gonna use material from that to do a bigger test for the sorting to get a sense of on the actual machines, does it work? And I think we need to go out there and see it in action. And if that works, then we kind of have to rethink our project, because integrating boundary zone as something perhaps to be mined in parallel to Tom and Jason, that's not a small needle move on the economics. That could be a massive swing in the economics. So we're quite excited about that. So we'll see what the results come out as in the next couple weeks, and we'll see then what the further studies do. But that's kind of one of the big game changers. And our project as is, I think, is about somewhere the 30 to 35th largest zinc lead deposit in the world. If boundary zone, if we can get a resource on that and we can integrate it and it's meaningful economically, it's not just an optionality play, then I think we possibly enter the top 20 sort of deposits in the world. And that's pretty lofty territory to be in. And look, we've already got the attention of tech. They were comfortable investing money. I think that the major zinc players have got their eyes on us, and I think that if boundary zone works and the additional gains we've seen at Tom and Jason with the incremental work we did this year and last year, I think the project starts looking a lot different, and I think that it goes from a very good project to a top in class sort of project.
Do you have any calculation what are the capex around be to bring this in production?
For Tom and Jason, the PEA we had last year said about 400 million Canadian for Tom and Jason. Now we're hoping we can work with the Yukon government to have their assistance in building the road to our project. The road exists. It needs improvement, and it is a government road. So we're hoping that they pay for a large part, if not all of that, which would help reduce that. But even as is, it's pretty manageable in terms of capital intensity. It's consistent with the peers. And the hope is that boundary zone may represent something like a 30 to 50%, very forward-looking statement, increase in throughput, with hopefully only a 20 to 30% increase in your capex, right? So now a lot of work needs to get done to see, am I at all right with those estimates? We don't know. Is it better? Is it worse? We don't know. So the hope is that this lowers the capital intensity, lowers the capital, it lowers the operating cost per unit zinc you ship, and that's why we think it really has the capacity to move the needle in the economics.
From the PEA of Tom and Jason, what is the average cost per pound of zinc what you're coming up?
So the average, what we would consider adjusted cash cost, or in the gold space they might call it the all-in sustaining cost, is 86 cents US. Now I caution people that one of the challenges with the reporting of costs in base metal spaces is that there is no, like there's a World Gold Council that tells you how to do an all-in sustaining cost. There is no World Zinc Council that tells you how to do it. So read the studies carefully, because if they claim something, they may claim it as an all-in sustaining cost, but it may not be. So one of the challenges I've had is that, of course, I think I'm doing my calculation right, but I know some of my peers are doing it a different way than I am.
But I think if in the end you find somebody to finance the capex, they do their due diligence very well. So, and they know if you can make money out of it or not. If you not can make money out of it, then you not get the money. So that is for me the proof of concept that your numbers must be in this area. And to be honest, we saw also in the past on some projects they're coming up, especially gold project, they're coming up with super efficient, IRR from 45%, and then they are running and then they're not making money.
Yeah.
So that's a study, but it's only a study. And in the end, it's when you start a mine, it's always tricky, and you have always some issues, and it never runs like easy.
Yeah.
And that brings me back to this previous discussion what we have about the prices. The people on the street they forget that the metal what we use is really tough first to find, to bring it out of the ground.
Yeah.
It's cost a lot of energy, knowledge, and so on, and should not cost something.
Yeah.
And this makes me a little bit frustrating sometimes, that the people not realize how really tough it is to get some material out of the ground.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that, it's as a mining industry, we don't do ourselves any favor because we have consistent cost overruns. We often don't hit targets. Our studies can be very generous. Let's face it. Engineers are pliable. If you want better numbers, you can give your engineer buddy a little like, come on. But so I understand the cynicism, and this is the problem. I think at Discovery Group broadly, we believe in doing business right. We all have credible, real projects. It doesn't mean that our projects will all work, but we approach them non-cynically, non-promotionally. We approach them as like, let's give this a legitimate shot. But you're competing with people who don't report things the way they're supposed to be reported, who don't, who will be dishonest about the difference between a net of byproducts or co-product cash base and stuff like that. So sometimes it feels like you're not necessarily rewarded for your honesty, but at the end of the day, the science wins. The best projects get built. The people who buy companies like Fireweed or whoever are not idiots, and they're not going to get fooled by your promotion.
But for investors, sometimes really tough to understand what this is now a good project and what's a bad project. So that's is the point. So last question: what are you planning for the next 6 months before we meet us on the PDAC or in January?
Yeah, I mean, look, winter for us. We actually left camp yesterday, so we've got the rest of our drill results, which is 3 holes, including 2 holes from Boundary Zone, which should be exciting, coming out in the next month. Over winter, we probably will do our upgraded sorting study on the Boundary Zone, which we would likely may get. I don't want to promise that it'll come before PDAC, but it may well come before PDAC. And then it's looking forward to next year, and I think next year will probably be a look at, all right, let's try to get a resource on Boundary Zone. Let's look at perhaps an updated economic study.
Okay, thank you for the update.
Thank you.
Ja, das war ein Update von Fireweed Zinc, und wir haben am Anfang sehr viel über den Markt gesprochen, wie ich mit der Claudia auch schon davor. Und selbe Meinung quasi, und es ist auch teilweise wirklich frustrierend, dass so Erz aus dem Boden rauszukriegen wirklich viel Arbeit ist, und dafür kriegt man eigentlich viel zu wenig Geld, muss man auch dazu sagen. So, aber was haben Sie gemacht seit März, seit unserem letzten Interview? Sie haben ja im Jänner, muss man ja wissen, hat ja Tech investiert bei denen, war die Lead Order sozusagen, die haben sozusagen den Fuß in der Tür bei denen, und sie haben 3,5 Millionen jetzt quasi in diesem Sommer ausgegeben, haben sehr viel gebohrt, und da waren halt einfach ein paar interessante Bohrergebnisse dabei. Sie haben noch nicht alle Bohrergebnisse. Sie haben auch eine Open-Pit-Bereich gebohrt, um festzustellen, ob der groß genug ist, um dort die Ressource zu erweitern. Dort ist noch keine Ressource drauf. Wir haben dann sehr viel auch, und das war das spannendste Ding, sie haben daneben bei ihren 2 Kernprojekten, wo auch ein PEA schon besteht, it's called Boundary Zone.
Yes.
Die Boundary Zone, und das sind ganz lange, also eine große Zone mit 250, 300 Meter teilweise Mineralisierung, aber relativ niedriggradig, 2-3% nur. So, und dieses 2-3%, auch wenn es über so lange Strecken ist, zahlt sich eigentlich nicht aus zu produzieren, denn dazu sind die Preise zu niedrig. So, und sie haben eine neue Technologie probiert. How called the technology that?
Or sorting.
Or sorting.
Yes.
Okay, Erzaussortierung auf gut Deutsch. Ich kenne das schon bei anderen Firmen, die das auch machen. Das heißt, das Erz ist dort sehr separiert. Das heißt, es ist nicht wie beim Porphyr ein Gemisch, wo man quasi alles verarbeiten muss, sondern man kann die Teile, die ein Metall enthalten, von den Teilen, die kein Metall enthalten, sehr gut unterscheiden. Das heißt, man malt das Gestein auf eine Größe schon von dieser Größenordnung, also kleinerer Schneeball, und dann sortiert man die Teile aus, die kein Erz haben. Und da geht es jetzt dann darum, ob man die Gehalte sozusagen des verbleibenden Teils erhöhen kann. Und das war bis jetzt so, dass sie quasi diese Tests, was sie gemacht haben, 70% des tauben Gesteins, wie es so schön heißt, entsorgen haben können, aber nur 15% der Gehalte verloren haben, was automatisch heißt, natürlich das verbleibende Erz, was da ist, hat einen viel höheren Gehalt und damit wird das natürlich dann wirtschaftlich interessant. Er sagt, Sie haben jetzt die 2 Projekte, was Sie haben, zählen sicher zu den 30, 35 größten weltweiten Zinkprojekten, aber können Sie diese Boundary Zone Barriere inkludieren, dann wird es auf einmal ein Top 20% Projekt und das wäre natürlich ein Riesensprung nach vorne, würde auch die Wirtschaftlichkeit dann verbessern und das ist auch das Ziel, was Sie in den nächsten Jahr wahrscheinlich angehen werden, können Sie diese Boundary Zone wirtschaftlich so einarbeiten, dass Sie 30-40% mehr, also mehr Wertschöpfung haben, aber die Kosten für dieses Projekt nur um 25% steigt. Dann zahlt es sich wirklich aus, dass das inkludieren und das ist jetzt der Fokus. Natürlich, sage ich einmal so, die Aktie wird laufen, wenn der Zinkpreis läuft. Das ist ganz klar. Aber die Company hat natürlich einen guten Hebel auf den Zinkpreis und er sagt, bei den jetzigen PE-Studien sind sie auch gekommen, dass sie ungefähr durchschnittlich 86 Cent pro Pfund ungefähr Kosten haben. 1,06 ist ja aktuell der Zinkpreis, also eine schöne Marge, aber wenn sie jetzt bei 1,30, 1,40 der Zinkpreis ist, wie er schon im Frühjahr war, ist das eine ganz andere Dimension, aber dafür muss eigentlich das wirtschaftliche Umfeld sich deutlich verbessern. Ja, das war's von Fireweed Zinc im Oktober 2019 Vancouver. Tschüss und Baba. Thank you.